Hello. So we can start. We can see our names, and that's quite a short session. So anyway, so we will not going to introduce ourselves. You see our names. So maybe I just can point. Me and Neringa were lawyers. You are from business and from technology. And you from technology side, so it's quite a diverse team, and I hope that it will be more interesting than to have just lawyers. Yeah, sometimes it's boring. Good. So here it is a topic, and there is stressed agents, but I think it's good to talk about in general about AI regulation. But we will talk about the agents too. So please be not disappointed. I have a question for you. How do you think, do we need absolutely independent or free or autonomous agents? So who think that autonomy is a good thing? Not so many? So another position is maybe we need some human oversight, yeah, and that's a topic I think that we are going to discuss. Okay, so maybe let's start from some questions. Neringa, how do you think are agents, not AI, but agents already regulated by the law, maybe AI Act or other documents?
Hello, once again. My name is Neringa Gaubiene. I'm a lawyer. And I always count everything from the last stage, as I call, when it rises the dispute and we go to court, what it would be, what the lawyers would show, what the judge would ask to provide, what would be the documents. So I'm counting from the last resort, as I'm calling. Regarding the AI regulation overall, it's very complicated. It's very fragmented, and of course, it's not final. We have AI Act. Who of you have read the AI Act? Okay, not all of us. So we know that it's very complicated and yet not in force. And in AI Act, when it was created, AI agent wasn't mentioned in this act at all. So we have a new stage of regulation. In my opinion, we need something, not a different act or another one AI act, but something should be done that we could feel safe in AI agent era, I should say.
So you think that we need additional regulation on it?
It could be also incorporated in the AI Act, or it could be a national regulation, because we know in Lithuania we have AI Act that is applied in all member states, but now we are, our government is preparing another act, national act regarding AI regulation. So I think we can have something also national regulation regarding AI Act, just to be sure that we are not in a position that we lose control over these powerful agents.
Okay, so this nationalism is more implementation, but there are different practices in different EU countries where they add some additional layer. But we will come back to
for example, Italy.
Yeah,
it has its own
the
regulation.
most extreme example. Okay, so we will come back to this regulation, over-regulation, or not enough regulation. But do we know what agents are? So what is an agent? Maybe Karolina, you can. The most complicated question, I think. But you know, because if we like to regulate or to set some rules, we need to know what is an object or subject in this case. So.
Yeah, so I wanted to raise this question as well. So I think there are two separate things: what agent is and what people call agents, because people nowadays call agents whatever they might drag and drop. But in general, from the AI architecture perspective, an agent is something that came out within Gen AI. And as I work in AI for over 10 years, and I built AI systems in regulated environments for I think 8 years. So I think that AI was regulated. No, I think I experienced that for many years, that AI is regulated at the moment if you work in regulated environment. And my question for the audience, because like you might have the reason why you came to this strange topic. So who of you work in regulated environment? Okay, and who of you are building AI systems in regulated environment? Okay, so we have some experienced people, and that's really good. So in general, AI was regulated if you work in regulated environment. And what's new for specialists is just when Gen AI appeared, those regulations came, they had to pick up, and I think that's when EU started, making like one big document instead of all those separated ones. So I think that so from the practical point of view, and when I read the last time AI Act as it is right now, it is easier for specialists to work right now than it used to like 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Because back then, if you work in a regulated environment, you simply can't use neural nets, for example, because there were no rules like what you should, do, or like what kind of documentation, what kind of monitoring do you need. And because there were no official act as we might have right now, there were no ways. And each time when we were building, for example, I was building AI system for capital allocation, the bank. So each time we had to go to regulators, and each time we had to talk and ask them, so what do you think we should do? And they were just like, okay, it's the first time for us as well. We don't know, but we have to be very safe right now. And when we have regulation, we have clear boundaries and clear requirements. So from the specialist point of view, I see that this is so much easier than it used to be.
I would like to add regarding the definitions. People strive for clear definition. What is AI agent? What is AI? But for example, lawyers, I don't know, like for you, we feel comfortable in uncomfortable situations. For example, what is justice? What is purpose? What is other constructs are very comfortable for us, for lawyers. I'm sorry. And for example, in AI Act, we do not have clear definition what is AI. There's AI system, but not an AI. So again, AI agent. We can have several aspects, but we do not have clear definition what is AI agent.
Okay, so it's nice to hear that you have a bit different opinions here, because there are several concepts. One of the concepts is that we need to go in sectoral way, as the United States and quite a lot of countries do, because it's much more easier to do it, because you can just solve problems when they pop up. Okay, we have a problem and we solve it. But there was a much more complicated way chosen to have some concentrated document. And it will be not perfect anyway, so it's impossible to do it perfect. But that was, in my opinion, it was quite good intention, and some other countries are doing the same. We know it's in Korea, in other countries, so they follow. We know this geopolitical situation that United States are totally against due to present administration, but that was a big challenge here.
Paulius, and I agree with you, because I think AI Act isn't perfect. It's far from perfect. And for example, low risk in medicine and low risk in law, in energy, totally different things. So I'm talking about systems. So I'm also for sectoral regulation, but if we will have more regulations in the future, I don't know what would be.
Yeah, that's a good question, because everybody talk that we have too many laws and regulations. But when we go very directly to some issue, so we see that we have not enough regulation, and that's, contradiction here. So what is direction? Do we need additional laws, or we just need to work with present laws and decrease? Because now at the same time, maybe there is digital omnibus, where is intention to deregulate some fields and areas, including AI regulation, which is not, some parts are not applicable yet. So that's, like shaking between we need to regulate, but we need to deregulate. And that's a question. So Jonas, what is your opinion on these agents and then the regulation?
I think, so technology, first of all, hi, I'm Jonas. I have a podcast called Debate. It's in Lithuanian, so for half of you it might not be very relevant. Yeah, but so in this question about the regulation of AI, like AI Act has started in the era of deepfakes, and it has like a third of it dedicated around various deepfakes. And I think it's such a good example of like how there's a mismatch of tempo. Like AI is accelerating, and if you work in AI, like very well, like this, even though we already feel like as a technology, AI is so fast in its evolution compared to previous technologies, that tempo is still increasing. And I think it will only this mismatch between the regulation tempo and the progress tempo. Like for instance, I would not overthink what an agent is. I think agent is simply, like, I love the name of OpenClaw. Like you just give AI's hands and that's an agent. Like if it can only generate text, sure, cool, AI. If it can do stuff, then now we're talking about an agent. And I personally wouldn't overthink it much. Of course, legal definition is probably a different thing, but for me, in my head, it's kind of simple enough. So yeah, so when it comes to updating these regulations, I'm personally on sort of the idea that like it's a losing game to try to catch up with all of the changes and new expectations. And probably if we can't have something like a rapid regulation force that can quickly respond and somehow at European, like it's completely non-viable, this idea, then the solution probably might be, yeah, just deregulate a bit, because I think a far greater risk, like 10 times greater risk for Europe is lagging behind rather than not plugging some holes. That's my take.
Okay, that's one of official, let's say, opinions. Maybe Karolina, you can jump in.
Yeah, I think that the problem arises when two very fundamentally different disciplines should work together. And one is law, another one is AI, let's say. Yeah? Those are very different by nature. Law should be stable. Imagine that law would act as now AI world. EU Act just dropped new, yeah? That we wouldn't feel safe in such world, yeah? In my opinion, law should be stable because it's about our fundamental rights. And what AI Act tries to regulate is like, now it's domain-based mostly, but it tries to regulate and protect our rights. And those are not changing over time as AI frameworks appear like each day. And I guess for the audience here, what is an agent? For the technical audience, this wouldn't be a question. What is AI and what is not AI? This wouldn't be a question because this is what we work on each day. And the problem is that law and AI are very different, and we don't have this culture of working together. And in practice, I don't see how AI engineers or lawyers can make decisions alone. I see the only way of how we can work together as an intersection, and this is our goal for upcoming years, I guess.
Okay, that's a good point, because we just can't say that we can't do anything. So we need to do something, and we need to find the ways how to do it. It's complicated, yes, it's complicated. Everything is changing, but as Karolina mentioned, we have no luxury to have changing rules every time, because then it's unpredictable. So if you do something and in half a year it's changed, so you have a problem. So we need some stability anyway.
Certainly, and that was sort of my take from the fact that perhaps the starting point should not be too many rules, and only establish them once things have settled. Because right now we have already experienced, and we're still experiencing the fact where, like, due to some of the European regulations, we're not getting some of the AI benefits, like either a model is lagging, deployment is limited. Some things do give us more rights, but we have also already seen the negative effects of, I would say, a bit premature regulation.
But what specifically? That's very interesting, because in my experience, when we talk in abstract way, then it's overregulated. I had a very nice experience with cybersecurity, where it is a directive, NIS2 directive, and it's very abstract, so you can't understand anything from it. Absolutely, it's just some ideas. Then you need to transpose to national jurisdiction, and there were very different ways how countries did. Lithuania was quite specific, and all market was discussing we need much more specific regulation. Why? Because especially as a technical people, you like very clear rule. So that is permitted, that is not permitted. Because if we leave anything on legal definitions like democracy, freedom, and so on, so how you code it? What is the way to code? Yeah, you have no answer. You need very specific rules, and that's very controversial. We'd like to have less regulation, but we'd like to have very specific. If we have very specific, that means we have a lot of regulation. So and sometimes it's good to have some very clear boundaries. And in AI Act, I think there are some clear rules, and then maybe you can mention what in principle it's regulated in AI. Is it technology? Is it prohibited any technology? Or agents, or are they just prohibited?
Yeah, well, I was thinking from the practical point of view as the systems builder, what it means for AI engineer to comply with the AI Act. So since we talk only about agents, I will remain in Gen AI area. So basically, evals, well-defined, documented evals, and observability platform. Who of you builds AI agents already? But I'm talking about like full system AI, not drag and drop. Okay, I see a couple of hands. Who of you built like full observability platforms around that? Okay, two hands. So that's the mismatch. And what I see from my experience when we talk about AI, well, Gen AI, so evals and observability platforms, those are two key elements in general for safety. Okay, maybe I need to clarify that. When we talk about Gen AI, we are not talking about accuracy anymore, because there are a lot of good answers and a lot of bad answers. We are talking about systems behavior, and that's where it's actually better to join with the law, because we are talking about the behavior, right? And it's not that easy, and we are not used to defining the behavior as engineers. And through evals, and we have to have more diverse teams while defining evals. And actually building that observability that actually works. So when we are teaching AI engineers how to build AI systems, we teach about evals and observability platform, as well as all the technical stuff. And in my opinion, you shouldn't be like high risk or like in regulated domain to have those elements, because it's not only about regulation, it's about the maturity of your AI system.
Yeah, and I think we can go to a bit more practical things, what you started. Because when we talk about regulation and AI Act, I think it's quite difficult for you to read, because there are a lot of definitions, it's quite a big document. And I hope that there will be a very good support, very good help for you, standards. Because now why we're stuck and why some dates are postponed, just because we have no standards. We have requirements you must do. There are huge penalties, really huge penalties, and there are no standards. And there were two possible ways, just to go forward without any delay in dates, because that's in some stage in some, or just to postpone and to have standards in advance. And it's quite logical, yeah. So, but that's extremely difficult now. There are companies who were hired to prepare these standards. They did something. Commission was not happy with it, and now they are dealing. So it's complicated here. Okay, but for you, it will be much more easier to read standards. I hope that they will be good prepared, well prepared. So that will be next step for you. But maybe somebody of you know how to start, like for person to start working. Doesn't matter, is it with the agents or with the LLMs? So what are steps? How we can do this initial? How to prepare? What to look at?
In terms of regulation?
Yes.
So first of all, we don't have to keep secrets. I had a startup idea. So first of all, I called Paulius to double check within the act whether it's a good idea. So the first advice would be to double check your ideas with the lawyers before you start doing it. Because in our practice, we see so many companies that build ideas, like let's say they have a fully ready startup, and then they realize, oh, by the way, AI, we can't do that. Oh no, regulations, those are stopping us, so that's terrible. So think before even starting coding. And the second one is to document everything and think about the system design. First of all, because those fundamental things, they don't change actually. So from my point of view, and of course what I mentioned before, evals observability, so system design and all the proper elements that must be in the mature AI system.
And as far as that's not a lecture, so just some recommendations from practice. I think some of you can add it. We afraid some definitions. For example, high risk, and quite a lot of people think that high risk is a problem, but that is a possibility, because it's not prohibited. Because there are some and what's important to point: none of technologies are prohibited. None of technologies. That is issue of usage, where you use it, for what purpose. For example, you use for education, for medicine, so it can be some limitations. If it's manipulate people, so it's prohibited. So there are some topics what are just prohibited, and that's it, and that's good. These topics are quite sensitive and negative. But when we talk about high risk, so you need to do some actions in advance. And that's a good practice, because you will have some advantage. Because somebody are lazy to do that, and you can do all these documents, all these checkings and so on, what need to be done, and you will have much better product, and you can sell anywhere in the world, because our requirements are the highest. So that's do not afraid for some maybe dangerous words or not nice words. So. Yeah, so
that is like a very interesting phrase you mentioned, that yes, our requirements are the highest. And from that, I think there comes this, particularly if AI Act were actually enforced, we would see a lot fewer products reach Europe, because I see like this sort of conversation that you sort of just went through is not something I hear at all during my sort of day-to-day life in startup ecosystem. Everyone's thoughts are on the fact that like the product development and also user acquisition timelines in the last year have insanely accelerated. It is not incredibly rare to basically have a prototype first users and funding within first month. And if lawyers can match that tempo, then great. But in my experience, it is almost never a top 5 concern, because the top 5 concern is that niche that you have found with AI, let's say, is going to be relevant in 3 months. Because again, this field is accelerating it, and the product development is such a rapid pace that there basically each product and idea has a fairly limited lifespan for how long it is relevant. A great example of that is like cursor editor. It was the darling last year and everyone has forgotten it now. So basically, this is a very strange mismatch of, I would say, like startup ecosystem experience where, yes, it's great to hear lawyers talk about the importance of law, but it's not something I hear every day.
Okay, I see Neringa like to add something on it.
No, not to add. Could we come back to your question regarding AI agents?
Sure.
Yesterday, preparing for this discussion, I had another discussion, in-house discussion, and we were discussing what would be the shortest definition for AI agent. And we come to this. Please give your opinions. It would be really appreciated. Model-based decision-making. Please give for and against.
This is too broad.
Yeah, I would say so. Like
the shortest. What would be the shortest?
An AI system that can affect outside content generation. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I fully agree. I would just specifically say does things outside just pure content generation, because pure content generation is, yeah, like it doesn't affect the system outside of it. As long as the system goes outside of its own boundaries, we have an agent.
Yeah, but it's important to notice that we are not regulating algorithms and technology itself. We are regulating impact of it. And that's a huge difference. I know we might want to, to have the list of algorithms that would say high risk, medium risk, low risk. But
and that was in the very beginning. That was in the very beginning. That was the first proposal of commission, where was list of technologies, and it's so crazy, including databases. AI is database or something that it's not, And why it's the worst thing, because technology is changing so fast. And how you add this list? So how many technologies will be in AI list? And AI is not just one technology. It's a group of technologies, and it's changing and so on. So I think we used all our time. Maybe you can just wish something or propose for people who are in how to manage all this risk and regulation topic.
I'm just going to say, go forth and build.
I would like to agree with Karolina and say that AI implementation is technical, legal thing. So don't be scared. Talk to lawyers, and your road would be smoother and more reliable.
Yeah, my wish would be so that those two groups of people would actually start working together and try to understand each other. So for the technical people, as I came from this field, my advice would be to deeply think why we have regulations like this, and when, for example, I was traveling in Africa and I had some local flights, and I was so happy to get back to Europe because of regulation. I got sick in Africa, and I was also so happy to get back to Europe and be treated by doctors because of regulation. So when we complain about what's wrong, my advice would be to think why do we have those regulations at first, And for lawyers, my advice would be to try to understand fundamentals of AI if you're willing to work with AI, because this is the technology. If we are removing this 90% of marketing out of this, this is technology, and this is what will remain if you want to actually build something.
Okay, thank you. And maybe just last words. I think for you, recommendation for you is to use this regulation for yourself. Do not afraid. Do not look that it's so complicated, bad or good. It's a fact. It will be a fact. It will be, independently you like it or not, just to make your position stronger than others. Okay, thank you.
It has obligation, it has requirements, but it is not practical. Like we have on our sites requirements, we have to ensure it, but on the one page, I am in industry and academia. On our sites, currently I am doing PhD for 4 years. But in AI, it is only one page. So my questions to her, when she mentioned it is clear, AI is clear, what exactly she wanted to say? Is it clear but not practical, or clear and practical? If she thinks it is practical, or which aspect or how?
It is absolutely not practical for technical people. This is my point of view, because since I work for many years in that, so I have experience of that, so I have an eye to read, but like if I have a question, I'm calling to this person sitting next to me. So basically it is not clear, and it is not practical for engineers, and this is like Paulius can say that I'm always repeating that. So this act was made for lawyers, and that's good, because they will take actions and do whatever is needed. So, but that's a very good point. It's not practical for us.
And what's good, for me, it was very strange that we are creating regulation for technologies, and we do not creating tools to understand this regulation. And what is happening right now, quite a lot of teams are working on, translation of this document to other, let's say, languages, technology language, just to do it quite automatically, just to have some system. There are already exist some of them, they are not good, but I hope that they will improve. So we'll have, possibilities, including technical tools. So that could be a good future. Okay, thank you very much.